Have you ever felt that strange sensation when meeting someone for the first time, yet somehow knowing them deep in your soul? What if the most profound mysteries in life aren't found in distant stars, but in the familiar eyes of a stranger? Emma's terrified screams echoed through the school corridors. The 7-year-old had collapsed beneath her desk, trapped in a nightmare only she could see. Dr. Maya Williams reached for the trembling child, but the moment their hands touched, something inexplicable happened. Maya gasped as a flash of memory struck her, a memory she couldn't possibly have, a violent storm, a child's frightened face, words spoken in desperation. "You're safe," Maya whispered, her voice suddenly different, somehow older than herself. Emma looked up, tears subsiding, and said something that chilled everyone in the room. "I knew you'd find me again." Richard Coleman stood frozen in the doorway, watching this stranger comfort his daughter with an intimacy that defied explanation. Something in Dr. Williams's gestures, in her eyes, reminiscent of someone who couldn't possibly be there. Someone declared dead 4 years ago. What inexplicable connection binds this child to her therapist? What forgotten truth lies behind? And how can a heart recognize what the mind has forgotten? Some bonds refuse to be broken, even by death itself. Join us for a story of extraordinary discovery that will make you question everything you believe about the power of love. Like and subscribe to hear how fate and memory intertwine in ways science cannot explain. But to understand the miracle that was about to unfold, we must first return to where our story truly begins, with a man who had everything, yet lived with nothing but memories and regret. In the quiet evening hours, amidst the sprawling luxury of his penthouse suite, Richard Wilson stands alone. The city lights glimmer through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across Italian marble floors and designer furniture. Yet despite the opulence surrounding him, there's an unmistakable emptiness that follows Richard through these grand, echoing rooms. He pauses before a wall of achievements, framed magazine covers celebrating his business success, photos with celebrities and dignitaries, awards that most would treasure. His fingers lightly touch a small, simple frame nestled among the accolades. It holds a faded photograph of a beautiful woman with warm eyes and a radiant smile, her hand resting on a very pregnant belly. "Another successful quarter, Alina," he whispers to the photograph. "The company valuation hit 8 billion today." His voice catches. "Emma asked about you again." The silence that follows is broken only by the distant ring of his phone. Richard squares his shoulders, clearing his throat before answering. "Wilson," he answers brusquely. As he listens, his professional mask slides perfectly into place. "Yes, we'll close the Singapore deal tomorrow. I've already reviewed the contracts." A pause. "No, I won't be at the celebration. Family matters." He ends the call, looking briefly at the time, 9:37 p.m. With a sigh that carries the weight of years, Richard loosens his tie and moves toward the hallway that leads to his daughter's room, the only truly lived-in space in this showpiece of a home. For Richard, Wilson had mastered the art of accumulating everything, except what truly mattered. The hall light spills into Emma's room as Richard gently pushes open the door. The 7-year-old's bedroom stands in stark contrast to the minimalist decor of the rest of the house, colorful drawings taped to walls, stuffed animals arranged carefully on shelves, and glow-in-the-dark stars dotting the ceiling. Tonight, however, the peaceful scene is shattered by Emma's distress. She thrashes under her blankets, small face contorted in fear. "Mommy, don't go," she cries out, still locked in her nightmare. "The water's too high." Richard rushes to her side, heart pounding. "Emma, sweetheart, wake up, it's just a dream." His hands hover uncertainly before settling on her small shoulders. Even after 7 years, he still feels painfully inadequate in these moments. Emma's eyes fly open, filled with tears and confusion before recognition sets in. "Daddy." Her voice sounds so small in the large room. "I'm here, Em. Everything's okay." He awkwardly pats her back as she clings to him, her tears soaking through his expensive dress shirt. This, comforting his daughter, remains the one challenge his Harvard MBA never prepared him for. She was in the water again. Emma whispers, against his chest. I couldn't reach her. Richard swallows hard. The nightmares have been coming more frequently lately. I know, sweetheart. I know. Emma pulls away slightly, reaching beneath her pillow to retrieve a delicate white handkerchief with intricate embroidery in one corner. Alina, stitched in elegant blue thread. She clutches it tightly, a ritual Richard has watched countless times. Mum's angel cloth will keep the bad dreams away, she murmurs, her eyes already growing heavy again. Richard tucks her in, watching as she drifts back to sleep, the handkerchief pressed against her cheek. That handkerchief, the last birthday gift he'd given Alina before the accident. Now it was Emma's most treasured possession. Something has to change, he thinks. Brushing Emma's hair from her forehead. He can't keep watching his daughter suffer like this. Night after night, the same nightmare. Night after night, the same helplessness. Richard Wilson, the man who could solve any business crisis, had no solution for his daughter's broken heart. Morning sunlight streams through Richard's home office as he sits hunched over his laptop, fatigue evident in the shadows beneath his eyes. Multiple browser tabs are open to various child psychologists and therapists in the city. He scrolls through credentials, reviews, and methodologies with the same intensity he applies to vetting potential business acquisitions. His phone buzzes with a text from James, his closest friend since college, and one of the few people who knew Richard before wealth and tragedy reshaped his life. Any luck finding someone for Emma? My sister's kid saw an amazing child therapist after their divorce. Helped tremendously. Richard types back, send me the info. Minutes later, he's staring at the professional profile of Dr. Maya Jenkins, PhD in child psychology, specializing in childhood trauma and grief. Her approach combines traditional therapy with art and play techniques. The testimonials are glowing. But what catches Richard's attention is her gentle smile in the professional headshot. There's something genuinely compassionate in her eyes that the other polished corporate therapist photos lack. His finger hovers over the contact button. Richard Wilson, who makes multi-million-dollar decisions daily without hesitation, now pauses. Seeking help feels like admitting failure, that he can't heal his own daughter's pain. What would Alina think of him outsourcing their daughter's emotional well-being? James calls, interrupting his thoughts. Did you get the info I sent? Maya helped my nephew actually talk about his feelings after Julie's divorce. The kid was completely shut down before... I don't know, James, Richard sighs, leaning back in his chair. Therapy seems so invasive. Having a stranger pick apart Emma's feelings about her mother. Rich, it's been 4 years. The nightmares aren't going away. This isn't about you, it's about Emma. The truth in those words stings. Richard looks at the framed photo on his desk. Emma as a toddler, laughing on a swing, her eyes so much like her mother's. You're right, he finally admits. I'll make the call. After hanging up, Richard clicks the contact button on Dr. Jenkins's profile. For Emma, he would try anything, even opening the door to the past he's worked so hard to keep closed. Sometimes the strongest thing a father can do is admit he can't do it alone. As dawn breaks over the city, Dr. Maya Jenkins moves through her modest apartment with practiced efficiency. The space is small but thoughtfully arranged, bookshelves lined with psychology texts, comfortable furniture in soothing colors, and plants thriving on every windowsill. Unlike the sterile professional image many expect of therapists, Maya's home reflects her belief that healing spaces should feel lived in and warm. She pauses before her bathroom mirror, applying moisturizer with careful attention to the thin, silvery scars near her hairline. Her fingers linger there, tracing the barely visible line where her face was reconstructed. Most patients never notice them, but to Maya, they're daily reminders of the childhood accident that erased her. Early memories. An accident her adoptive parents never fully explained. Another day, another dollar, she murmurs to her reflection, an expression her adoptive father always used, one of the few solid memories she has. Maya turns away from the mirror to finish dressing, selecting a professional but approachable outfit for today's sessions. As she does every morning, she glances at the collection of thank you cards displayed on her dresser. crayon drawings and heartfelt notes from the children she's helped guide through their darkest moments. "At least I can give them what I never had," she says softly. "Someone who truly listens." In her living room, Maya picks up a framed photograph of herself with her adoptive parents at her graduation. They're beaming with pride, but Maya's smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. That sense of disconnection, of being loved but somehow still alone, has followed her throughout her life. Despite her professional success and the meaningful connections she makes with her young patients, Maya can't shake the feeling that she's living someone else's life. The persistent gaps in her memory feel like missing puzzle pieces, not enough to see the complete picture, but enough to know something vital is absent. She gathers her materials for today's sessions, reviewing her schedule. A new patient. Assessment at 10. Emma Wilson, age 7, referred for trauma-related nightmares and anxiety after losing her mother. Maya feels that familiar tug of empathy as she reads the intake notes, along with something else she can't quite name. As she locks her apartment door, Maya touches the scars near her hairline once more, an unconscious habit whenever she feels that unexplainable déjà vu. Something about today feels different, though she couldn't possibly know how this ordinary Tuesday would begin to answer the questions she'd stopped asking long ago. The waiting room of Maya's practice is designed to put children at ease. Comfortable seating, nature photographs on the walls, and a small table with art supplies and children's books. Yet Richard Wilson sits rigidly on the edge of his chair, checking his watch for the third time in 5 minutes, while Emma quietly colors at the activity table. The door opens precisely at 10 o'clock, and Dr. Maya Jenkins emerges with a warm smile. "Emma and Mr. Wilson, I'm Dr. Maya, please come in." Emma looks up, immediately drawn to the kindness in Maya's voice. Richard stands, straightening his already impeccable suit jacket, armor against this unfamiliar territory of emotional vulnerability. "Thank you for seeing us on such short notice, Dr. Jenkins," Richard says formally, extending his hand. As Maya accepts the handshake, something flickers across Richard's face, a momentary confusion, quickly masked. He studies her features with an intensity that exceeds normal social observation. Maya notices, tilting her head slightly. "Have we met before, Mr. Wilson?" "No," Richard replies, withdrawing his hand perhaps too quickly. "I'm sure I would." "Remember." Yet uncertainty lingers in his voice. Maya turns her attention to Emma, kneeling to the child's level. "I love your drawing, Emma. May I see what you're creating?" Emma nods shyly, revealing a picture of a boat on stormy waters. Maya's smile remains steady, though something in her eyes shifts, a flicker of unease quickly replaced by professional warmth. "You're very talented," she tells Emma. "Would you like to bring your drawing into my office? I have more art. Supplies inside." As they enter the therapy room, Richard hangs back, watching the natural ease between Maya and Emma. The therapist's movements as she shows Emma around the playroom seem oddly familiar. Gestures and mannerisms that stir something in his memory he can't quite place. Maya catches him watching and offers a reassuring smile. "Mr. Wilson, you're welcome to join us for this first session, or you can wait outside if you prefer, whatever makes Emma most comfortable." "What would you like, Emma?" Richard asks his daughter. "Stay, Daddy," Emma says, already settling into the child-sized chair beside Maya's desk. "Dr. Maya might need help remembering my story." Maya arranges her notes, unaware that the simple act of tucking her hair behind her ear exactly mirrors the gesture of a woman in a photograph on Richard's desk, a woman who supposedly died 4 years ago. Some connections run deeper than memory, flowing beneath the surface of conscious recognition, like underground rivers, waiting to be discovered. The children's therapy room feels worlds away from Richard's carefully controlled life. Shelves lined with puppets and toys, a small sandbox in one corner, and walls adorned with children's artwork create an environment where imagination and healing intertwine. Richard perches uncomfortably on a chair clearly designed for someone half his size, watching as Maya gently guides Emma through their initial conversation. Sometimes, Maya explains, arranging small animal figures on the table between them. It's easier to talk about difficult feelings when we pretend they belong to someone else. Would you like to choose an animal to be you? Emma carefully selects a small elephant figurine. Elephants never forget, she says with surprising wisdom. Daddy says, that's like me with Mom. I remember everything, even though I was little. Richard's throat tightens. He hadn't realized Emma had internalized his casual comment that way. Maya nods thoughtfully. That's a wonderful quality, Emma. And who would this tiger be? She holds up another figure. That's Daddy, strong and brave, but sometimes scary when he roars at people on the phone. Emma demonstrates with a tiny growl that makes both adults smile despite themselves. And who would I be? Maya asks. Emma studies the remaining animals with serious concentration before selecting a deer. You're gentle but have good listening ears. Maya accepts the deer with appropriate solemnity. Thank you, Emma. Now, can your elephant tell my deer about the dreams that have been scaring you? As Emma begins to speak through her elephant, describing nightmares of rising water and a mother who disappears beneath the waves, Richard watches Maya's reactions. Her professionalism never wavers, but there's something in her eyes, a depth of understanding that seems too personal to be merely clinical empathy. When Emma mentions a boat capsizing in a sudden storm, Maya's hand trembles slightly as she writes notes. So subtle that only someone watching as closely as Richard would notice. And how does your elephant feel when she wakes up from these dreams? Maya asks, her voice steady despite the momentary lapse. Scared. Sad. Emma hugs the elephant to her chest. Like part of her is missing forever. Maya glances at Richard, who quickly looks away, unwilling to reveal how deeply his daughter's words affect him. When he looks back, he catches Maya discreetly wiping the corner of her eye before returning her attention to Emma. Thank you for sharing that, Emma. Your elephant is very brave. Maya selects several more animal figures. Now let's create a safe place for your elephant with all the animals who care about her. As the session continues, Richard observes the natural way Maya connects with Emma, drawing out thoughts and feelings his daughter has never expressed to him. It's as though Maya instinctively knows exactly what Emma needs, reading his daughter, with an intuition that feels almost maternal. By session's end, Emma is smiling, her earlier tension visibly diminished. As they prepare to leave, she asks Maya, "Can I come back tomorrow?" "We have an appointment next week," Richard reminds her gently. "Actually," Maya says, making a note in her calendar, "I had a cancellation for Thursday. If that works for your schedule, Mr. Wilson." Their eyes meet over Emma's head, and that strange current of recognition passes between them again, quickly dismissed by both, yet undeniably present. Thursday would be perfect, Richard agrees, wondering why the prospect of seeing this particular therapist again creates such conflicting emotions within him. Relief for Emma, certainly, but something else too, a puzzle his logical mind can't quite solve. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed again. And in that cheerful therapy room, surrounded by toys and children's drawings, the first lock had just silently turned. Thursday arrives with a gentle spring rain that taps against the windows of Maya's office. The session has progressed well, with Emma showing remarkable openness through various therapeutic games. Now, as they near the end of their time, Emma reaches into her small backpack. "I brought something special to show you," she tells Maya with solemn importance. "It's my most treasured possession in the whole world." From her backpack, Emma carefully withdraws a white handkerchief, handling it with reverence. The delicate fabric is well loved but meticulously maintained, with elegant blue embroidery in one corner. "This is my angel cloth," Emma explains, gently smoothing it across her lap. "It belonged to my mommy." Maya leans closer to see, then freezes as the embroidery becomes visible. "Alina, stitched in intricate blue thread." "May I?" Maya asks, her voice unusually quiet as she extends her hand. When Emma places the handkerchief in her palm, Maya's fingers tremble visibly. She stares at the name with an intensity that transcends normal interest, running her thumb across the embroidered letters as though reading them in Braille. "Alina," Maya whispers, and something in her pronunciation, a subtle inflection, makes Richard look up sharply from his phone. "That was my mother's name," Emma explains proudly. "Daddy says I have her smile." Maya blinks rapidly, a sudden sheen of tears threatening her professional composure. She clears her throat, passing the handkerchief back to Emma, with hands that aren't quite steady. "It's beautiful," she manages. "Where did your mother get such a special handkerchief?" "Daddy gave it to her," Emma says, turning to Richard. "Right, Daddy. For her birthday before I was born." Richard nods, watching Maya with increasing curiosity. "It was custom-made in Vietnam during a business trip. Alina loved delicate things." "Vietnam," Maya repeats softly, almost to herself. "I've always felt drawn to Vietnamese culture. I don't know why." She abruptly stands, moving to her desk to note something in Emma's file, but Richard suspects it's more to compose herself than record information. "Do you want to know why I call it my angel cloth?" Emma continues, unaware of the adult's tension. "I'd love to know," Maya responds, forcing a smile as she returns to her seat. "Because angels watch over us even when we can't see them," Emma says with childlike certainty. "Just like my mommy watches over me from heaven." Maya's professional mask slips completely for an instant, her expression so raw with unidentified emotion that Richard nearly rises from his chair in concern. "That's a beautiful thought, Emma," Maya finally says, her voice thick. "I believe that too." As she helps Emma return the precious handkerchief to her backpack, Maya's sleeve rides up slightly, revealing a small crescent-shaped scar on her wrist. Richard's breath catches, identical to one Alina had from a childhood fall. The session ends, and as they say their goodbyes, Richard impulsively asks, "Dr. Jenkins, would you have time for a brief word about Emma's progress?" "Of course," Maya agrees, though something in her manner suggests she too needs a moment to process what just happened. "Emma, there are some new books in the waiting room. Would you like to choose one while your father and I talk?" Once Emma is safely out of earshot, Richard asks directly, "Are you all right, Dr. Jenkins? You seemed affected by the handkerchief." Maya hesitates, then offers a practiced smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "I apologize for my unprofessional reaction. Something about it triggered a strange feeling of déjà vu." She pauses, then adds with apparent casualness, "If you don't mind my asking, what happened to Emma's mother?" "A boating accident off the coast of Vietnam 4 years ago." Richard's voice remains carefully neutral. "They never recovered her body." For the briefest moment, Maya presses her fingers to her temple as though fighting a sudden headache. The gesture dislodges her carefully styled hair, revealing more of the thin surgical scars near her hairline. "I'm sorry for your loss," she says finally, "and thank you for trusting me with Emma's care. I have a feeling we're going to make significant progress." As Richard guides Emma toward the elevator, he can't shake the image of Maya's face. As she touched that handkerchief, like someone catching the first notes of a half-remembered song, beautiful and painful in equal measure. Behind them, Maya stands in her office doorway, watching their departure with a distant expression. Her hand unconsciously rises to touch the small scars along her hairline, scars from surgeries she's been told were necessary after a childhood accident. An accident she's never been able to clearly remember. Some memories hide in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves, and sometimes healing one person's heart requires first discovering your own. 2 weeks into Emma's therapy, Richard arrives early for their scheduled progress meeting with Dr. Jenkins. From the hallway, he hears Emma's delighted laughter floating through the partially open office door, a sound so rare in recent months that it stops him in his tracks. He lingers outside, watching through the gap as Maya and Emma sit cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by colorful paper and markers. "And then what happened to Princess Elephant?" Maya asks, her voice animated as she holds up a paper puppet. "She found her way back to the castle," Emma explains seriously. "But she was different now, stronger, still sad sometimes but brave enough to remember without crying." Maya smiles, a gentle expression that transforms her professional demeanor into something luminous. "That's a beautiful story, Emma. Princess Elephant sounds very courageous, like Me, Emma says with newfound confidence. Exactly like you. Richard clears his throat, announcing his presence as he enters. The moment his eyes meet Maya's, something unspoken passes between them. A connection that transcends their professional relationship. Mr. Wilson, Maya greets him, rising gracefully. Emma, why don't you finish coloring your puppets while your father and I talk about your progress? At Maya's desk, she opens Emma's file, her slender fingers moving efficiently through the pages. Emma is making remarkable strides. Her symbolic play is revealing how she's processing her grief in healthier ways. I heard her laugh, Richard says quietly. I can't remember the last time. Children are remarkably resilient when given the right tools. Maya slides a report across the desk. Here's my assessment so far. As Richard reaches for the document, their hands briefly touch. Both freeze momentarily, an electric current of recognition passing between them. Maya withdraws first, a flush coloring her cheeks. Sorry, she murmurs, though neither is sure what she's apologizing for. Richard scans the report, impressed by the insights into his daughter's emotional world. You understand her so completely. It's as if... As if what, Mr. Wilson? Maya prompts when he doesn't continue. As if you've known her much longer than 2 weeks. He meets her gaze directly. Or as if you share something fundamental with her that I've been missing. Maya's professional mask slips briefly, revealing vulnerability beneath. Perhaps I just recognize her pain. She hesitates, then adds softly, not knowing your past leaves a special kind of emptiness. I understand that better than most. Before Richard can question this cryptic remark, Emma approaches with her completed artwork. Look, Daddy, I made our family. Richard examines the paper puppets, a tiger labeled Daddy, an elephant for Emma, and surprisingly, a deer wearing a blue dress labeled Dr. Maya. Is Dr. Maya part of our family in your story? Richard asks carefully. Emma nods with childlike certainty. In my heart, she feels like she should be. Maya's sharp intake of breath is almost imperceptible, but Richard catches it, along with the tremble in her hand as she begins gathering her notes. As they prepare to leave, Richard impulsively asks, Dr. Jenkins, Maya, would you consider joining us for ice cream? Emma's been doing so well, perhaps a small celebration is in order. The invitation hovers between them, charged with possibilities neither fully understands. After a moment that seems suspended in time, Maya smiles, a genuine expression that reaches her eyes and stirs something long dormant in Richard's heart. I'd like that very much. Sometimes healing begins not with grand revelations, but with the smallest moments of connection, a shared laugh, a casual touch, an unexpected invitation, and as the three leave the office together, none could possibly know how this simple detour for ice cream would alter the course of all their lives. The following Saturday morning finds Richard in his expansive kitchen, preparing breakfast, while Emma chatters excitedly about her upcoming therapy session. The domestic tranquility is interrupted by the sharp buzz of the intercom, followed by his housekeeper's apologetic voice. Mr. Wilson, your mother is here. Richard's shoulders tense immediately. Thank you, Marcia. Please show her in. Emma brightens. Grandma's here. Moments later, Eleanor Wilson sweeps into the kitchen, immaculately dressed even for this impromptu visit. Her critical gaze takes in the informal breakfast scene before she bends to accept Emma's enthusiastic hug. Good morning, darling, she says to Emma before addressing her son. Richard, you weren't answering my calls. Good morning, Mother. Coffee, he offers with practiced politeness that masks the complicated history between them. Eleanor settles at the kitchen island, maintaining perfect posture even on the bar stool. Emma, sweetheart, I've brought you a new book. It's in my purse in the living room. Would you get it while I talk to your father? Once Emma scampers away, Eleanor's pleasant expression hardens. James tells me you've got Emma seeing a therapist, a Dr. Jenkins. Richard continues cooking, not meeting her eyes. Emma's doing wonderfully with her. The nightmares have decreased significantly. Therapy, Eleanor says the word like it's distasteful. Dragging up the past when the child should be moving forward. What would people think? I don't care what people think, Mother. I care about Emma's well-being. Eleanor sighs dramatically. We've been through this before, Richard. Your impulsive decisions regarding Emma's upbringing, like marrying her mother. Richard interrupts, his voice dangerously quiet. That impulsive decision gave me my daughter. The kitchen fills with tense silence, years of unspoken conflict hanging between them. Eleanor had never approved of Alina, the foreign-born middle-class woman who captured her son's heart, and had made no secret of her relief when tragedy effectively removed the problem. I only want what's best for this family, Eleanor finally says. Our family has a certain position to maintain. Our family is just Emma and me now, Richard reminds her coldly, and Dr. Jenkins is helping us heal. Emma returns, clutching a glossy new book. Grandma, can Dr. Meyer come to my birthday party next month? She's helping me make a memory box for Mommy. Eleanor's expression freezes. A memory box? For Alina? She turns accusatory eyes to Richard. You're letting this therapist encourage Emma to dwell on the past. Before Richard can respond, Emma speaks up with unexpected assertiveness. Dr. Meyer says remembering Mommy with love is different from being stuck in sadness. She helps me understand my feelings. Eleanor blinks, momentarily silenced by her granddaughter's articulate defense. Richard places a protective hand on Emma's shoulder. Dr. Jenkins has been excellent for Emma, and yes, she's welcome at your birthday party if you want her there, sweetheart. This Dr. Jenkins, Eleanor says carefully, studying her son's face. You seem quite impressed with her. Something in her tone makes Richard bristle. She's a gifted therapist who connects with Emma on a level I've never seen before. I see. Eleanor's voice carries a weight of implication. History repeating itself, perhaps. Another inappropriate attachment to someone outside our circle. Emma looks between them, sensing the tension without understanding its source. Grandma, Dr. Meyer has the kindest eyes, just like in the pictures of my mommy. You'd like her if you met her. Eleanor's expression softens looking at her granddaughter, though her disapproval remains evident. Perhaps I should meet this miracle worker who's won over both Wilsons so completely. As Eleanor prepares to leave after an awkward breakfast, she pauses at the door. Be careful, Richard. Emma isn't the only one who's vulnerable. You've been alone too long. After she's gone, Richard stands motionless in the foyer, her warning echoing in his mind. His mother's uncanny ability to identify his vulnerabilities has always unnerved him, because the truth, one he's barely admitted to himself, is that Dr. Meyer Jenkins has begun to occupy his thoughts in ways that extend far beyond professional appreciation. What disturbs him even more is why, not just her warmth or intelligence or gentle beauty, but the unsettling feeling that in her presence, he's found something he lost long ago. Sometimes the people who know us best can see truths we're not ready to face, and sometimes their warnings serve only to draw us closer to the very fates they hope we'll avoid. Tuesday afternoon brings Maya to the Wilson home for her scheduled environmental assessment, a standard part of Emma's therapy designed to understand the child's daily surroundings. Richard, having rearranged important meetings to be present, greets her at the door himself, rather than having the housekeeper usher her in. Welcome to our home, Dr. Jenkins, he says formally, suddenly self-conscious about the mansion's ostentatious grandeur. Maya enters, taking in the soaring ceiling and museum-quality art with a professional smile that doesn't quite hide her discomfort with such obvious displays of wealth. Thank you for accommodating this visit, Mr. Wilson. It's very helpful to see where Emma lives day to day. Emma comes bounding down the grand staircase. Dr. Meyer, I want to show you my room first, and Daddy's office where he works and the garden where we have picnics. Lead the way, Maya laughs, allowing herself to be pulled along by the excited child. As they move through the house, Richard notices something odd. Maya navigates the sprawling layout with unusual familiarity. At the second-floor junction, where hallways branch in 3 directions, she automatically turns left toward Emma's room without guidance. Have you been here before? He asks casually. Maya pauses, looking momentarily confused. No, it just seemed the natural way to go. Emma's room provides a welcome distraction, a joyful space filled with books, toys, and artwork covering nearly every surface. Maya admires it all with genuine interest, asking Emma thoughtful questions about her favorite things. "And what's in that room?" Maya asks, pointing to a closed door across the hall that Emma has conspicuously avoided mentioning. A shadow crosses Emma's face. "That's Mommy's room. Daddy keeps it just like it was." Richard clears his throat uncomfortably. "I've preserved some of Alina's things for when Emma's older." Maya's expression remains professionally neutral, but something flickers in her eyes. "Would it be possible to see it? Understanding how you've maintained Alina's presence in the home helps me comprehend Emma's emotional environment." After a moment's hesitation, Richard nods. "Emma, why don't you get the memory box you've been working on to show Dr. Maya?" Once Emma dashes off, Richard unlocks the door to what was once Alina's study. The room remains exactly as she left it. Books on the desk, a half-finished sketch of the garden, her reading glasses placed precisely beside a dog-eared novel. This was her sanctuary, Richard explains softly as they enter. She would read. Hear sketch, listen to music. Maya moves through the space with reverence, trailing her fingers lightly over the desk's surface. At the bookshelf, she stops abruptly, focusing on a specific volume, the collected poetry of Pablo Neruda. She reads, her voice faint. Richard stares at her. "That was Alina's favorite. How did you know to look at that particular book?" "I didn't," Maya whispers, but her hand trembles as she carefully returns the book to its place. She turns toward the window, visibly struggling to maintain composure. "The view of the garden," she murmurs. "It's beautiful from here." "Alina chose this room specifically for that view," Richard says, watching Maya's reaction closely. She could see Emma playing while she worked. Maya's eyes suddenly fill with tears. She quickly blinks away. She moves to a small side table where a jewelry box sits, her hand hovering over it without touching. "Are you all right, Dr. Jenkins?" Richard asks quietly. "I'm sorry," she says, composing herself with visible effort. "Sometimes I experience strong emotional responses in spaces where significant loss has occurred. It's a form of empathic resonance, common among therapists, but the explanation sounds rehearsed, even to her own ears." Emma returns with her memory box, breaking the charged moment. "Look what I made with Dr. Maya's help. It has pictures of Mommy and things that remind me of her." As Emma proudly displays her therapeutic project, Richard observes Maya's face, the professional mask back in place, but not quite concealing the profound disturbance beneath. Later, as the home visit concludes and Maya prepares to leave, they stand together in the foyer while Emma fetches a drawing she wants to give her therapist. "Thank you for today," Maya says formally. "This visit has been very informative." "You had a strong reaction to my wife's study," Richard states directly. "Stronger than professional empathy would explain." Maya meets his gaze, something like fear flickering in her eyes. "Mr. Wilson, Dr. Maya," Emma interrupts, running back with her drawing. "This is for you. It's our family having a picnic in the garden." The picture shows three figures, Emma, Richard, and a woman with curly hair who could be either Maya or the mother she never really knew. The ambiguity hangs between them, unaddressed but impossible to ignore. As Maya accepts the drawing with heartfelt thanks, Richard watches her hands. The same slender fingers and distinctive way of holding paper that he remembers from another woman, another life. The line between professional insight and personal connection had begun to blur, leaving all three suspended in a liminal space between past and present, between what was lost and what might yet be found. 3 days after the home visit, Emma experiences a therapy breakthrough that leaves her emotionally exhausted. Richard, called into an emergency board meeting, arranges for Maya to continue their session at the Wilson home under the housekeeper's supervision. The mansion feels different with Richard absent. Less imposing, Maya thinks, as she helps Emma process the difficult emotions unleashed during their session. They've been working with sand tray therapy, using miniature figures to recreate the boating accident that took Alina's life. "I'm tired, Dr. Maya," Emma finally says, her small face drawn with the effort of confronting her fears. "Can we—" "Stop now." Of course, sweetheart, you've done incredibly brave work today. Maya helps Emma clean up the sand tray. Would you like to rest for a while before your father returns? Emma nods, leading Maya upstairs to her bedroom. Will, you stay until I fall asleep. Daddy always does. I'll stay, Maya promises, helping Emma settle into bed with her treasured handkerchief clutched close. But sleep doesn't come easily. Emma tosses restlessly, the emotional session having stirred up anxieties that hover at the edges of her consciousness. Would a story help? Maya offers gently. Emma shakes her head. Mommy used to sing to me. Daddy tried to remember her song after she was gone, but he couldn't get it right. Maya smooths Emma's hair back from her forehead. A gesture so natural it surprises even her. Would you like me to sing something? Yes, please, Emma whispers, her eyelids already growing heavy. Without conscious thought, Maya begins to sing a gentle melody, the notes flowing from somewhere deep in her memory. The haunting Vietnamese lullaby, a mother's tender song, about moonlight shining upon a dreaming stream, fills the quiet bedroom. The unfamiliar language forms perfectly on her lips, each syllable rising and falling with native fluency she didn't know she possessed. Emma's eyes widen momentarily in recognition before drifting closed, a peaceful smile on her lips as she finally surrenders to sleep, comforted by the song she hadn't heard since she was 3 years old. Maya continues singing softly, the familiar melody bringing unexpected comfort. She's so absorbed in the moment that she doesn't hear Richard's return, doesn't realize he's standing frozen in the doorway until the final notes fade into silence. His face has drained of all color. "Where did you learn that song?" he asks. His voice barely audible. Maya rises from Emma's bedside, confused by his reaction. "I'm not sure. It just came to me." "That was Alina's lullaby for Emma," Richard says, his composure cracking. "A Vietnamese song her grandmother sang. To her as a child, no one else knows it. Alina never taught it to anyone else." Maya's hand flies to her temple, a sharp pain lancing through her head. "I don't understand. Perhaps Emma hummed it once during our sessions." "The lyrics," Richard interrupts, stepping closer. "You sang the correct Vietnamese lyrics, with perfect pronunciation." His eyes search hers with almost desperate intensity. "How is that possible, Dr. Jenkins?" "I don't know," she whispers, genuinely frightened by the implications. "I must have heard it somewhere. Perhaps I have some Vietnamese heritage I'm unaware of. My adoption records are incomplete." "Adoption records?" Maya takes an unsteady breath. "I was adopted at 17 after being found with severe injuries and amnesia. My life before that is mostly blank." Something shifts in Richard's expression, disbelief giving way to a wild, impossible speculation. He reaches for his phone, scrolling quickly before holding up a photograph. "This was Alina, my wife." The woman in the picture bears little resemblance to Maya. Different facial structure, slightly different coloring. Yet something about the eyes, the smile. "The boating accident," Richard continues, his voice unsteady. "It happened off the coast of Vietnam. Her body was never recovered." Maya backs away, overwhelmed. "Mr. Wilson, I understand this is painful, but what you're implying is impossible. I can't be. When were you found? With these injuries and amnesia, I don't see how that's relevant to Emma's therapy." Maya attempts to regain professional distance. "When?" Richard insists. 4 years ago, she finally admits. "In a coastal hospital in Vietnam." The silence that follows feels like the space between heartbeats. A suspended moment where the world as they've known it threatens to unravel completely. "I think you should leave now," Maya says quietly, gathering her professional composure around her like armor. "This session has been emotionally taxing for everyone, and we're crossing boundaries that aren't appropriate." As she moves past him toward the door, Richard gently catches her wrist, the one with the crescent-shaped scar. "Maya, please, just consider the possibility." She pulls away, her clinical training warring with the inexplicable sense of rightness she feels in this house, with this child. "I'll see Emma at our regular appointment next week. Good night, Mr. Wilson." As Maya drives away from the Wilson estate, her hands shake so badly she eventually pulls over, overwhelmed by fragments of memory triggered by the lullaby, the sound of waves, a child's laughter, the sensation of cool metal slipping onto her finger, memories that couldn't possibly be hers. Yet as rain begins to fall, matching the tears streaming down her face, Maya finally allows herself to whisper, the question that will change everything. Who am I really? The clock on Maya's nightstand reads 2:17 a.m., but sleep remains impossibly distant. Her normally orderly apartment is in disarray, adoption papers spread across the coffee table, medical records scattered on the floor, and her laptop open to search results for Alina Wilson boating accident. The articles tell a consistent story. Prominent businessman Richard Wilson's wife, presumed dead after a private yacht capsized during a sudden storm off the Vietnamese coast 4 years ago. Local search and rescue teams found no survivors despite extensive efforts. The couple's 3-year-old daughter, who had remained at their hotel with a nanny, was left motherless. Maya stares at a grainy newspaper photo of Alina Wilson, a woman whose features bear only passing resemblance to her own. Different bone structure, different facial shape. Yet those eyes, something in those eyes triggers an ache of recognition deep within Maya's chest. She turns back to her medical records, focusing on the earliest documents from the Vietnamese hospital where she was treated. Most are in Vietnamese with English translations. Patient presented with severe facial trauma requiring complete reconstructive surgery, multiple fractures, memory loss consistent with traumatic brain injury. One line in the report catches her attention. Patient discovered by fishermen clinging to debris approximately 30 kilometers from reported yacht accident. Maya's hands tremble as she reaches for a small box she's kept since her adoption, items the hospital said were with her when she was found. Inside lies a simple gold chain with a pendant she's always assumed was a random piece of jewelry. Tonight, for the first time, she holds it under the lamp and reads the tiny engraving on the back. To Alina, my North Star, R.W. This doesn't make sense, she whispers to her empty apartment. I would remember who I was, wouldn't I? She turns back to her laptop, searching for clearer images of Alina Wilson. There, in a Society page article about a charity gala, she finds what she's looking for, a full-length photo of the Wilsons. Alina wears a midnight blue gown with an open back, revealing a small distinctive birthmark on her left shoulder blade. Maya rushes to her bathroom, twisting awkwardly to examine her own shoulder in the mirror. Her breath catches. There, on her skin is an identical mark, the same distinctive shape she just saw in the photograph. She sinks to the bathroom floor, mind racing. The facial reconstruction surgeries explained why Richard hadn't recognized her. The amnesia explained why she hadn't recognized him. But the implications were too enormous, too life-altering to fully comprehend. If she was Alina Wilson, then Emma was my daughter, she whispers, the words sending a shockwave through her entire being. Maya forces herself to think clinically, professionally. Coincidences happen. Desperate grief can make people see connections that aren't there. She needs more evidence before upending multiple lives with such an extraordinary claim. Returning to her research, she discovers another article featuring an interview with Richard after the accident. Alina was fluent in Vietnamese, he'd told the reporter. Her grandmother raised her in Hanoi until she was 12. Maya had never studied Vietnamese, had no memory of speaking it. Yet the lullaby had flowed from her lips with native pronunciation, the words emerging from some place beyond conscious memory. As dawn breaks, Maya finally allows herself to consider the full weight of the possibilities before her. If she truly is Alina Wilson, she has a husband who believes her dead and a daughter who's been mourning her for 4 years. Revealing her suspicions without certainty would be psychologically devastating for Emma if she were wrong. And if she's right, the ethical implications of having unknowingly become her own daughter's therapist are professionally catastrophic. Maya gathers the scattered papers, organizing them methodically as she comes to a decision. Today she will visit Dr. Harriet Chen, the neurologist who treated her after her adoption. She needs medical expertise before proceeding further. As she prepares to leave, Her phone chimes with a text message from Richard. Emma asked if you could join us for her dance recital this weekend. No pressure, just thought you should know she asked. Maya stares at the message, feeling the walls of her carefully constructed life beginning to crumble around her. For 3 years she's helped children heal from trauma, yet now faces the ultimate test, whether to risk everything on the possibility that she might reclaim a life she doesn't remember. The universe had orchestrated the cruelest of coincidences, or the most miraculous of reunions, and today Maya would begin the journey to discovering which. The lullaby incident leaves Richard sleepless, his mind racing with possibilities too extraordinary to dismiss. In his home office, the soft glow of his computer illuminates his exhausted face as dawn breaks. For 3 days, he's been methodically investigating Maya Jenkins, calling in discreet favors from contacts who owe him. The results of his search are spread before him, a life that begins abruptly 4 years ago, as though Maya Jenkins simply materialized fully formed at age 31. Her adoption records confirm what she'd reluctantly admitted, found with severe injuries and complete amnesia in a coastal Vietnamese hospital, the timing aligning perfectly with Alina's disappearance. Richard opens a folder containing Maya's medical records, his heart racing as he reads, "Patient requires complete facial reconstruction, original appearance unrecoverable." The photographs documenting her recovery reveal why he never made the connection. The woman in these images bears almost no physical resemblance to the wife he lost. He pulls out an old photograph of Alina, studying her features, the particular shape of her eyes, the way she smiled slightly more on the left side, elements that no surgeon could completely erase, that he now realizes he's been subconsciously recognizing in Maya all along. "It can't be possible," he whispers. "Yet it would explain everything." "Daddy." Emma's voice startles him from the doorway. "Are you finding out more about Dr. Maya?" Richard quickly closes the folders. "What makes you think that, sweetheart?" Emma approaches, climbing onto his lap. "You look at her the same way you look at Mommy's pictures, like you're trying to solve a really hard puzzle." From the mouths of babes, Richard thinks, amazed by his daughter's perceptiveness. "Emma," he asks carefully, "would you like Dr. Maya to come to your birthday party next week?" Emma's face lights up. "Yes. Can she stay after everyone else goes home too?" As Emma scampers off to breakfast, Richard turns back to the files, gathering them into a secure safe. He isn't ready to share his suspicions with anyone. First, he needs more evidence, and most importantly, he needs to understand why. If Maya is indeed Alina, she hasn't begun to remember him. Balloons in various shades of purple, Emma's favorite color, bob gently in the afternoon breeze as the last of the children's birthday party guests depart. What began as a small celebration expanded considerably once Eleanor Wilson became involved, transforming into a society event with the children of Richard's business associates. Through it all, Maya has remained a quiet presence, helping Emma navigate the social dynamics with subtle guidance. Now, as the elaborate garden party winds down, only the 3 of them remain, plus Eleanor, who watches from the terrace with poorly disguised disapproval. "Can we have cake on the swing now?" Emma asks, still wearing her birthday tiara. "Just Huz? Of course, birthday princess," Richard agrees, carrying the small cake Maya brought, separate from the elaborate professional creation Eleanor had ordered. This one is homemade, with slightly uneven lavender frosting. The garden swing beneath the oak tree has been Emma's special place since she was a toddler. As they settle there, Emma naturally positions herself between Richard and Maya, creating a portrait of family harmony that seems at once foreign and deeply familiar. "Did you make this cake yourself, Dr. Maya?" Emma asks. "I did," Maya smiles. "My adoptive father, taught me his secret recipe." "It's beautiful," Emma declares. "Can you show me how to make it someday?" Richard watches them together, noting how Maya unconsciously mirrors Emma's gestures, how they share the same laugh, small mannerisms that genetics could explain, but coincidence could not. As Emma happily devours her cake, she looks between the adults with chocolate-smudged contentment, This is the best birthday ever. Dr. Maya, can you stay forever? Yes, you make Daddy smile again. The innocent question hangs in the air, loaded with implications neither adult is prepared to address. Maya's cheeks flush as she fumbles for an appropriate response. As Emma runs off to show Eleanor her presents, Richard and Maya find themselves alone on the swing, gently rocking in companionable silence. "Thank you for coming today," Richard finally says. "It meant a lot to Emma. She's a remarkable child," Maya responds. "You've done an incredible job raising her alone." "I wasn't always alone," Richard says carefully. "And sometimes I wonder if I truly am now." Maya meets his gaze, something vulnerable flickering in her eyes. "Richard, I think we both know something unusual is happening here. These connections I feel, I can't explain them." He reaches for her hand. When their fingers touch, both feel the electric current of recognition. "Maya," Richard begins, his voice barely above a whisper. "You who?" "Richard, darling." Eleanor's voice cuts through the moment. "Surely Dr. Jenkins has other commitments this evening." The moment slips away as Maya drives off, but the questions remain, growing more insistent with each passing day. 3 days after Emma's birthday, Eleanor Wilson arrives unannounced at Richard's office, bypassing his assistant with imperious entitlement. "We need to discuss Dr. Jenkins," Eleanor announces without preamble. Richard sighs, setting aside his work. "Mother, I appreciate your concern, but Emma's therapy is not up for debate. This isn't about her professional qualifications." Eleanor removes her gloves with deliberate precision. "It's about who she reminds me of." "What do you mean?" That Eleanor settles into the chair across from him. "At Emma's party, I observed Dr. Jenkins carefully. There's something in her mannerisms, the way she tilts her head when listening, how she tucks her hair behind her ear as she pauses. Richard, she moves exactly like Alina." Richard feels his heart rate accelerate, but keeps his expression neutral. "You never paid much attention to Alina when she was alive. Why this sudden interest?" "I paid more attention than you realize." "To finding fault," Richard counters. "To reminding me constantly that she wasn't suitable for our family. I was protecting you," Eleanor insists, though with less conviction. "A foreign woman with no connections. She was a gifted artist with a master's degree," Richard interrupts, old anger resurfacing. "Who happened to be born in Vietnam instead of Connecticut?" Eleanor looks away, something like shame crossing her features. "Perhaps I was overly concerned with appearances." "Overly concerned? You made her feel unwelcome at every opportunity. And I have regretted it every day since the accident," Eleanor says quietly, surprising Richard. Watching Emma grow, seeing Alina in her, I realized too late what I had done. "The night before that trip," Eleanor continues, "Alina called me. She wanted to make peace for Emma's sake. I told her we'd discuss it when she returned." She looks up, eyes glistening. "But she never came back." The revelation stuns Richard. "You never told me." "How could I?" Eleanor's voice breaks slightly. "But that's not why I'm here." "Why are you here, Mother?" Eleanor leans forward. "Because when I saw Dr. Jenkins comfort Emma, she used a gesture, a specific way of cupping Emma's face, that was uniquely Alina's." "What are you suggesting?" "I don't know," Eleanor admits. "The accident was never fully explained, no body was recovered." She meets her son's eyes. "If there's even the slightest possibility, Richard, if by some miracle Alina survived, then I need to make amends before it's too late." Again, as his mother prepares to leave, she pauses. "Whatever you discover, remember that Emma must be protected. Hope can be more devastating than grief when it's unfulfilled." Maya's scheduled Saturday session with Emma coincides with an unexpected spring cleaning project. Richard has been systematically organizing Alina's belongings, and boxes of photographs now occupy the formal living room. "Sorry about the mess." Richard apologizes as Maya arrives. "Emma wanted to help sort through some of her mother's things. I thought it might be therapeutic." Emma emerges from the pile of boxes, clutching a leather-bound album. "Dr. Maya, Daddy found pictures from when I was a baby. Want to see?" The therapy session transforms into an impromptu journey through family history, as Emma proudly shows Maya photographs. Maya maintains her therapeutic perspective, offering supportive comments while helping Emma process her emotions. "Oh," Emma exclaims, pulling another album from a nearby box. "Look what I found, Daddy, it's your wedding pictures." Before Richard can intervene, Emma is already opening the album, revealing photographs of Richard and Alina on their wedding day. Maya's hands tremble slightly as she accepts the album. "Mom was so beautiful," Emma says proudly. Maya stares at the image of Alina, studying the woman's features with an expression Richard can't quite interpret. There's no immediate shock of recognition. The facial differences are too significant, but something about the image clearly disturbs her. Emma flips to another page, revealing a photograph of Alina in a backless evening gown. This was Mommy's favorite dress. Maya's attention fixes on a distinctive heart-shaped birthmark, visible on Alina's left shoulder blade. Her hand unconsciously rises to touch her own shoulder in the same spot. "Emma, would you mind getting us some water?" Richard asks, noticing Maya's reaction. Once Emma leaves, Richard turns to Maya. "You recognize something," as Maya closes the album with unsteady hands. "It's nothing. Just an unexpected similarity. The birthmark," Richard says directly. "You have one too, don't you? In exactly the same place." Instead of answering, Richard reaches for another photograph. This was Alina's favorite photograph of herself. The image shows the heart-shaped birthmark clearly visible. "Many people have similar birthmarks," Maya says weakly. "Maya," Richard says gently, "would you show me yours?" After a long moment, Maya turns slightly and pulls her collar just enough to reveal her left shoulder. There, in precisely the same location, is an identical heart-shaped mark. "This doesn't prove anything," Maya whispers, though her certainty is clearly shaken. "The lullaby, your intuitive knowledge of our home, your connection with Emma, the timing of your emergence in Vietnam after Alina's disappearance. And now this." Maya stands abruptly. "Mr. Wilson, these sessions are meant to help Emma, not to entertain impossible theories about my identity." "Are they impossible?" "Maya, your life begins exactly when Alina's ended. Because I had amnesia. Because I was injured." Maya's controlled demeanor finally cracks. "Because whoever I was before is gone." Richard watches her, heart breaking at her distress. Or maybe she's been finding her way back, drawn to the daughter and life she lost. As Maya prepares to leave, Richard gently touches her arm. "Don't run from this. Whatever the truth is, we'll face it together." "I need time," she whispers. "This is overwhelming." Monday morning finds Maya in the austere office of Dr. Harriet Chen, the neurologist who treated her after her adoption. The distinguished doctor reviews Maya's scans with detached interest. Most patients don't ask to review their surgical history 4 years after the fact, Dr. Chen comments, adjusting her glasses. "I need to understand what happened to me," Maya explains. "All of it." Dr. Chen turns her computer screen toward Maya. "As you know, you were brought to a Vietnamese hospital with severe injuries, consistent with a maritime accident. Your face had sustained traumatic damage requiring immediate intervention. The clinical images show a woman barely recognizable, swollen. Tissues, shattered bones, a face destroyed beyond recognition. 17 separate surgeries?" Maya asks, reading the medical record. "Yes, they had to essentially reconstruct your entire facial structure." Dr. Chen scrolls through the progression photos. "Your jaw, cheekbones, even your nose, all required rebuilding." Maya stares at the images, watching her current face slowly emerge from the reconstruction. No wonder Richard hadn't recognized her. The woman she had become bore only fundamental resemblance to Alina Wilson. "And my memory loss. Traumatic brain injuries often affect memory. Yours was particularly severe. The hippocampus and temporal lobe both sustained damage consistent with the retrograde amnesia you experienced. Is it possible I could be someone other than who I believe I am?" Maya asks directly. "What do you mean?" "My identity was essentially assigned after the accident. What if I was someone else entirely?" The brain is remarkably complex. While episodic memory was damaged, procedural memory often remains intact. Skills, habits, preferences, and emotional memory can be particularly resilient. Meaning, you, might recognize a song without remembering learning it, or feel drawn to certain people without knowing why. Dr. Chen leans forward. Are you considering recovering your pre-accident identity? Maya nods. What if I discover I already have a family, people who believe I'm dead, a child who's been mourning me? Understanding dawns in the doctor's eyes. This isn't theoretical. I need to know if my memories could return. Maya presses. Memory recovery in cases like yours is unpredictable. Sometimes a powerful emotional trigger can reactivate dormant neural pathways. Other times the memories are truly gone, but it's possible. Yes, Dr. Chen confirms. It's possible. Maya explains the extraordinary situation with the Wilsons, the mounting evidence, and the impossible coincidences. Maya, as your doctor, I must caution you about the psychological implications. If you're wrong, you risk causing tremendous pain to both yourself and this family. And if I'm right, then you face the equally complex challenge of reconciling two identities, the woman you've become and the woman you were. With trembling hands, Maya reaches for her phone and types a message to Richard. We need to talk. Tomorrow after Emma's session. I'm ready. Tuesday afternoon arrives heavy with anticipation. Maya has prepared for this conversation with Richard meticulously, organizing her discoveries, consulting with Dr. Chen, even writing out what she plans to say. The gravity of potentially reclaiming her identity as Alina weighs on her, equal parts terrifying and exhilarating. Emma's therapy session proceeds normally, though Maya finds herself studying the child with new awareness, noticing small gestures and expressions that mirror her own. If her suspicions are correct, she isn't just Emma's therapist, she's her mother. Emma, your father and I need to discuss your progress. Would you mind reading in the waiting room for a few minutes? Once Emma settles outside, Maya returns, to find Richard standing by the window, tension evident in his posture. Thank you for agreeing to talk, she begins. I've been doing some investigating since our last conversation, and the birthmark was just the beginning, Maya explains, retrieving a folder. I consulted with my neurologist about my surgeries. She confirmed what you discovered. 17 reconstructive procedures that essentially rebuilt my face. She passes him medical images documenting her transformation. Richard studies them with visible emotion. There's more, Maya continues, heart pounding. I found this among my possessions from the hospital. She removes the gold pendant from her pocket. It's engraved. Richard picks it up with trembling fingers, reading the inscription. To Alina, my North Star, R.W. His eyes close. Briefly, I gave this to her on our first anniversary. Richard, Maya says softly, I believe there's a real chance that I might be. A sharp knock interrupts as Maya's receptionist bursts in. Dr. Jenkins, Emma's having some kind of anxiety attack in the waiting room. Both adults rush out to find Emma hyperventilating. Maya kneels beside her, professional training taking over as she guides the child through the panic. Once Emma calms, Richard asks gently, What happened, sweetheart? I was reading about the girl who lost her mum in the ocean, Emma explains shakily, and suddenly I remembered being on the boat with Mommy. The storm came so fast and there was water everywhere. She begins crying again. I never told you I remembered Daddy. The revelation stuns both adults. Emma has never indicated any memory of being present during the accident, an event that supposedly occurred while she was safely at the hotel. Emma, Richard asks, are you sure that's a real memory? Not something from a dream? Emma nods emphatically. Mommy put her life jacket on me. Not her. She said, Emma first, always Emma first. Then the big wave came. Maya's face drains of color as a sharp pain lances through her head. The words echo in her mind, triggering something just beyond her grasp, a fragment of memory trying to surface. I think we need to continue this conversation another time, Maya says to Richard. Emma needs rest now, Richard agrees, gathering Emma into his arms. At the door, he turns back to Maya, the pendant still clutched in his hand. We'll finish this soon, Maya nods, overwhelmed. Tomorrow. Come alone in the evening. As they leave, Maya sinks into her chair, hands pressed to her temples, where pain continues to pulse. Emma's words had triggered something, a fleeting image of dark water, a child's frightened face, her own voice saying those exact words. Emma first, always Emma first. The morning begins like any other Wednesday at Westfield Academy. Children filing into classrooms, teachers greeting their students, the familiar rhythm of a school day taking shape. But for Emma Wilson, this ordinary morning is about to fracture into something else entirely. Ms. Pearson's fourth grade class is discussing ocean conservation when it happens. A video showing stormy seas triggers something deep in Emma's psyche, a door to memories she's kept locked away. The footage of waves crashing against a small boat sends her small body into a state of panic. Emma, Ms. Pearson notices. The child's sudden stillness, the color draining from her face. Are you feeling okay? But Emma doesn't respond. Her breathing becomes rapid and shallow, her eyes wide with terror as she stares at something no one else can see. The classroom around her fades away, replaced by memories of churning water, howling wind, and desperate voices. "Turn it off," Emma whispers, then louder. "Turn it off." Her classmates watch in confusion as she pushes away from her desk, knocking over her chair. She backs against the wall, hands pressed over her ears. "The water's coming in," she cries out. "It's too high. Mommy, the water's too high." The school nurse is called immediately. So are Richard and, at Emma's repeated requests between gasping breaths, Dr. Maya Jenkins. The nurse recognizes the signs of a severe panic attack, complicated by what appears to be a traumatic flashback. She guides Emma to the quiet room adjacent to her office, but the child remains trapped between past and present, her mind unable to distinguish between memory and reality. Maya arrives first, having been only 10 minutes away at her office. She rushes into the nurse's room where Emma sits huddled in a corner, rocking back and forth, trapped in the storm of her memory. "Emma," Maya calls softly, approaching slowly. "Emma, can you hear me?" The little girl looks up, her eyes unfocused. "The boat is sinking," she whispers. "Mommy put her life jacket on me. She said I had to be brave." Maya kneels beside her, maternal instinct overwhelming professional boundaries. She gathers Emma into her arms, holding her trembling body close. "You are brave, sweetheart. So incredibly brave." "I'm scared," Emma sobs, clutching Maya's blouse. "The water kept coming in and Mommy told me to hold on tight." "I know," Maya murmurs, stroking Emma's hair. Something shifts inside her mind, not quite a memory, but a feeling of profound certainty. "I know you were scared. Anyone would be." "Mommy!" Emma cries out suddenly, burying her face against Maya's shoulder. "Mommy, help me! Save me!" The word strikes Maya like lightning. Not Dr. Maya, but Mommy, spoken with such raw certainty that it pierces through layers of doubt and confusion. Without hesitation, Maya tightens her embrace, tears streaming down her face. "I'm here," she whispers, the words coming from somewhere beyond conscious thought. "I've got you now. You're safe." As Emma's breathing gradually slows, Maya continues to hold her, rocking gently back and forth. The school nurse watches from the doorway, moved by the profound connection between them. Neither Maya nor Emma notices Richard's arrival, how he stands frozen at the threshold, witnessing a reunion that defies all logic, yet feels like the most natural thing in the world. Sometimes pain breaks us open in ways that healing alone cannot, revealing truths too deep for the mind to comprehend, but that the heart has known all along. Richard stands motionless in the doorway, unable to process the scene before him. The world seems to narrow to this single moment, his daughter cradled in the arms of a woman who holds her with unmistakable maternal love. Not the practiced compassion of a therapist, but the bone-deep recognition between mother and child. Maya continues gently rocking Emma, unaware of Richard's presence. She brushes tear-dampened hair from Emma's forehead with a gesture so achingly familiar that Richard feels his knees weaken. It's the exact way Alina would comfort their daughter after a nightmare. "You're feeling better now?" Maya asks. Softly as Emma's breathing steadies, Emma nods against her shoulder. The boat isn't here anymore. That's right, Maya reassures her. You're safe at school, the storm is long gone. Emma pulls back slightly to look at Maya's face. You were there, she says with a child's simple certainty. On the boat. You put your jacket on me. Maya opens her mouth to gently correct. This confusion between her therapeutic role and Emma's actual mother, but the words die on her lips. For a fleeting second, she sees it. A flash of memory, her own hands fastening a life vest around a smaller Emma, the boat pitching violently beneath them. The memory vanishes as quickly as it appeared, leaving Maya disoriented. She takes a steadying breath and looks up, finally noticing Richard. She's calmer now, Maya says professionally, though her voice trembles slightly. Then almost unconsciously she adds, Daddy's here now. The simple phrase, so ordinary in any other context, lands like a thunderclap in the quiet room. Richard visibly flinches, recognition darkening his features. Those exact words, that precise intonation, Alina's way of reassuring Emma whenever she was frightened and Richard arrived. Time seems suspended as Richard takes a hesitant step. Forward, then another. His gaze moves from Emma to Maya and back again, seeing them truly as a unit for the first time. The resemblance he's been blind to, or perhaps unwilling to see, suddenly becomes unmistakable. The same thoughtful furrow between the eyebrows, the identical shape of their smile, the particular way they both tilt their head when listening. Emma, he says gently, would you be okay staying with Nurse Wilson for a few minutes while Dr. Maya and I talk? Emma nods, reluctantly releasing her grip on Maya. Are you coming back? She asks Maya, a note of fear in her voice. Of course, Maya promises, smoothing Emma's rumpled uniform. We just need to discuss how to help you feel better. As the nurse settles Emma with a cup of water and a quiet activity, Richard leads Maya to an empty classroom nearby. The short walk passes in weighted silence, both aware that they've crossed some invisible threshold and cannot return. Inside the classroom, Richard closes the door and turns to face Maya. His expression is a complex mixture of hope, disbelief, and something approaching fear. That phrase you just used, he says quietly. Daddy's here now. Maya meets his gaze steadily, though her heart pounds. It just came out. It was Alina's phrase, Richard says. Her exact words, her exact voice. He takes a shuddering breath. And the way you held Emma just now, no therapist holds a patient like that. You held her like a mother. Who thought she'd lost her child forever? The air between them feels charged with impossible possibility. Maya stands perfectly still, poised between the safety of denial and the terrifying leap toward truth. Richard, she finally whispers, I think I need to tell you something that's going to change everything. The revelation hangs between them, unspoken but undeniable, altering the very fabric of reality with its imminent arrival. The empty classroom feels both too small and infinitely vast, as Richard and Maya face each other across the divide of 4 impossible years. Children's artwork decorates the walls, innocent depictions of families, homes, and dreams, creating a poignant backdrop for the shattering of one reality and the potential birth of another. Who are you? Richard asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Not accusatory, but filled with a desperate need to understand, Maya remains silent for a long moment, gathering courage. When she finally speaks, her voice carries both certainty and fear. I don't know who I was before 4 years ago, but I'm starting to believe her. She pauses, taking a trembling breath. I'm starting to believe I might be Alina. A visible shock passes through Richard's body at hearing the name spoken aloud in this context. He grips the edge of a nearby desk to steady himself. That's not possible, he says, though his tone lacks conviction. Alina died in that accident. I identified her belongings. I arranged her memorial service. I've spent 4 years raising our daughter alone. I know how it sounds, Maya acknowledges. If someone had suggested this to me even a month ago, I would have recommended psychiatric evaluation. A ghost of a smile crosses her face. Professional hazard. Then why now? Richard demands, anger finally breaking through his shock. Why are you suddenly claiming to be my dead wife? I'm not claiming anything, Maya says quietly. I'm trying to understand impossible coincidences. The birthmark, the pendant, the Vietnamese lullaby I've never learned but somehow knew perfectly, the way Emma responds to me, and how I respond to her. She steps closer, vulnerability evident in every line of her body. Richard, when Emma called me mommy just now, it felt, right, not professionally inappropriate or confusing. It felt like she was finally calling me by my true name. Richard stares at her, searching her face for traces of the woman he loved. The differences are profound. This woman's features reconstructed through multiple surgeries after catastrophic injury, yet something in her eyes remains hauntingly familiar. If you're Alina, he says with forced calm, why haven't you remembered us before now? Why didn't you come back to us years ago? Maya, or perhaps Alina, closes her eyes briefly, fighting back tears. The doctors said my hippocampus was severely damaged in the accident. My memories weren't just temporarily lost. The physical structures that held them were damaged. She opens her eyes again, meeting his gaze directly. But some things are deeper than memory, Richard. Some connections exist beyond what we can explain. Richard turns away abruptly, his breathing uneven as he struggles to process her words. Do you know what it was like? He asks, his back to her. Telling our 3-year-old daughter that her mother was never coming home. Watching her cry herself to sleep, clutching that stupid handkerchief. His voice breaks. Do you have any idea what we went through? No, she admits softly. I don't remember, but I feel it, Richard. When I'm with Emma, I feel everything a mother should feel. Not as her therapist, as her mother. Richard whirls around, tears now flowing freely down his face. You can't just walk back into our lives claiming to be someone you don't even remember being. It's cruel, Maya. To Emma, to me, I know, she whispers, her own tears matching his. That's why I've been so careful. Why I needed to be certain before saying anything. She takes a step toward him, then another. But I think we both know the truth now, don't we? Deep down, beyond logic or reason or medical explanation, Richard's expression crumbles as the full weight of possibility crashes over him. If you're really her, he begins, unable to finish the thought. Then I've been here all along, she completes for him. Finding my way back to you both, piece by piece, without even knowing what I was searching for. The anger drains from Richard's face, replaced by a vulnerability so raw it's almost unbearable to witness. Prove it, he whispers. Tell me something only Alina would know. Maya shakes her head sadly. I can't. Those memories are still gone. She holds out her hands, palms up in a gesture of openness. But I can show you who I am now, and let you decide if that person could be the one you lost. In that moment, standing amid children's drawings of the families they know, Richard and Maya confront the most profound question of their lives, whether two people who have loved and lost can find each other again, even when one has forgotten how to remember. The tense silence between Richard and Maya is broken by a gentle knock at the classroom door. The school nurse peeks in, apologetic but firm. Mr. Wilson, Emma is asking for both of you. She's quite insistent. Richard nods, gathering his composure with visible effort. We'll be right there. As the nurse retreats, Richard turns back to Maya. This conversation isn't over, he says quietly. But Emma needs stability right now, not more confusion. I agree, Maya responds, professional training reasserting itself despite her emotional turmoil. Her psychological well-being has to be our priority. They walk back to the nurse's office in silence, each lost in private thoughts. Emma sits on a small couch, clutching a cup of water, her face brightening as they enter together. Are you feeling better, sweetheart? Richard asks, sitting beside her. Emma nods, but her attention fixes on Maya. I remembered more about the boat, she says softly. About when you saved me. Maya exchanges a quick glance with Richard. Before carefully responding, Emma, I understand these memories feel very real, but sometimes our minds can... No, Emma interrupts with surprising force. It was you. You had longer hair then, but it was you. She reaches for Maya's hand. You told me to hold onto the life jacket no matter what. You said, Emma first, always Emma first. And then the big wave came. The phrase strikes Maya like a physical blow. Pain lances through her temple, sharp and sudden, bringing with it a flash of memory so vivid she gasps. Dark water rising. Emma's terrified face, the violent pitching of a boat about to capsize. Her own voice speaking those exact words as she secured her child's life vest. Richard watches. Transfixed as Maya's expression transforms, confusion giving way to recognition, then to a dawning horror as fragments of the past reassemble themselves in her consciousness. The storm came so fast, Maya whispers, her eyes unfocused. We tried to radio for help, but it was too late. The waves were too high. Richard leans forward, hardly daring to breathe. Maya, she looks at him, truly sees him, perhaps for the first time. You weren't supposed to be on that business call. You were supposed to be with us on the boat, but the Singapore deal... Her voice trails off as another memory surfaces. I was angry. We argued before I took Emma out on the water. I wanted to prove I could handle the boat myself. Richard's face pales. That's right, he says quietly. That argument was private. No one else knew about it. Emma watches the exchange with solemn understanding beyond her years. See, I told you, she says simply. She's my mum. Maya or Alina pulls a tissue from her pocket, wiping tears she hadn't realized were falling. There's more, she continues, each word pulling another thread of memory from the darkness. When the boat capsized, I only had time to get one life jacket secured. I put it on Emma, not myself. She turns to the little girl, cupping her face with gentle hands. You were so brave, Emma. Do you remember? I told you to kick your legs like we practiced in swim class. Emma nods, tears welling in her eyes. You kept pushing me up when the waves came. You wouldn't let me go under. Richard listens, his own memories of that terrible day realigning with this new perspective. The search and rescue team had found Emma's life jacket washed ashore, miles from the accident, leading them to search the wrong area for Alina. No wonder they never found her body. She'd been rescued elsewhere, unidentifiable, her memory erased. I have your medical records, Richard says, his voice unsteady. From after the accident, they include photographs documenting your recovery process. He pulls his phone from his pocket, opening files he's kept secured but accessible. I need you to see these. Maya takes the phone, steeling herself before looking at the images. The first shows a woman barely recognizable as human, face swollen beyond recognition, covered in bandages. The sequential photos document a gradual transformation through multiple surgeries, the slow emergence of a new face from catastrophic injury. 17 surgeries, she murmurs, remembering Dr. Chen's explanation. They rebuilt my entire face. Richard nods, watching her closely. That's why I never recognized you. Why no one did. But your heart knew, Emma says with simple certainty. That's why you kept having dreams about Mommy, even when you couldn't remember. Maya turns to Richard, vulnerability and hope, warring in her expression. Is it possible? Could I really be her? Instead of answering directly, Richard reaches into his wallet and carefully extracts a small, worn photograph. This was taken the day Emma was born, he says, handing it to Maya. Look at her eyes. Really look. Maya studies the image of a younger Richard standing beside a hospital bed, where a radiant woman with distinctly different features cradles a newborn Emma. But the eyes, the woman's eyes, are unmistakably her own. Not the shape which surgery had altered, but something more fundamental that no scalpel could change. The unique way they express emotion, the particular light within them. That's me, she whispers, the last walls of disbelief crumbling. I'm Alina. In that moment, as three souls recognize a truth too extraordinary for words yet too powerful to deny, the fractured pieces of their separate lives begin to realign into a new possibility. One family, reunited against impossible odds. 3 months after the public reintroduction of Alina Wilson, the garden behind the Wilson home has been transformed. Where formal landscaping once dominated, a vibrant blend of Vietnamese and American plants now thrives, an intentional fusion. of Alina's dual heritage, creating something new and uniquely beautiful. On this perfect Saturday morning, Alina kneels in the freshly tilled soil, showing Emma how to transplant delicate orchid seedlings her grandmother in Vietnam had sent. After hearing the miraculous news of her granddaughter's return, "Gentle hands," Alina instructs, demonstrating the proper technique. "The roots are fragile, but with the right care they'll grow strong." Emma mimics her mother's movements with careful precision. "Like our family?" she asks with the innocent wisdom that continually amazes both her parents. Alina smiles, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "Exactly like our family." From the patio, Richard watches them together, the scene both ordinary and extraordinary. A mother and daughter gardening on a weekend morning, an image he'd thought forever lost to him, yet now unfolds before his eyes as naturally as the seasons changing. When Alina glances up, catching his gaze, her smile holds a comfort and ease that has gradually replaced the uncertainty of earlier months. She beckons him to join them, patting the ground beside her. "Your expensive trousers won't survive," she teases as he hesitates. "Worth the sacrifice," he decides, settling beside them in the dirt. The normalcy of this moment, this simple family activity, carries profound significance for all three. Not a dramatic reunion or medical breakthrough, but the quiet miracle of everyday life restored. As they work together, Alina occasionally pauses, tilting her head in a way Richard recognizes instantly. She's remembering something. "The pond," she says suddenly. "There used to be a small pond over there with koi fish. Emma would feed them every morning." Richard nods, surprised. "Yes, exactly there. We filled it in after." He doesn't complete the sentence, but doesn't need to. "Let's rebuild it," Alina suggests, her eyes bright with purpose. Not exactly the same, but something that honors what was while creating something new. The metaphor isn't lost on any of them. Their life together follows precisely this pattern, preserving what remains of the past while consciously building a future that accommodates all they've become through both loss and discovery. Later, as they wash garden soil from their hands, at the outdoor faucet, Richard carefully broaches a subject they've been gradually approaching. "Dr. Martinez thinks we're ready," he says quietly, referencing their ongoing family therapy. "If you are," Alina knows immediately what he means. Though living together as a family, they've maintained separate bedrooms, a respectful distance, while their relationship re-establishes itself on new terms. "I am," she confirms with quiet certainty. "Not because I've remembered everything, I haven't and might never, but because I know who we are now, and that's enough." Richard, gently, takes her soil-smudged hand in his. "More than enough." As Emma calls them to see her completed planting, they move forward together, not as people desperately trying to recreate what was lost, but as partners building something new from the precious materials of both past and present. The garden, like their lives, emerges as neither purely what it was before, nor something entirely different, but rather an intentional integration, more resilient and vibrant for having survived the storm. The small motorboat cuts through calm waters, carrying the Wilson family toward a specific coordinate point off the Vietnamese coast. It's been almost 5 months since Alina's identity was restored, and this journey represents a culmination of their healing process, a return to the site of the accident that both ended one chapter of their lives and, through extraordinary circumstance, eventually began another. Alina stands at the bow, wind tugging at her hair as she gazes across the water. Unlike the stormy conditions that capsized her boat years ago, today the sea is tranquil, sunlight dancing across gentle waves. Behind her, Richard maintains a steady hand on the outboard motor, while Emma sits wrapped in a life vest, solemn but unafraid. They've planned this ritual carefully with Dr. Martinez's guidance, not to re-traumatize, but to reclaim power over the event that shattered their family. For Emma, it's an opportunity to face her lingering fears of water. For Richard, a chance to release the guilt he's carried for not being on the boat that day. For Alina, it's about honoring both who she was and who she became. When they reach the approximate location, Richard cuts the engine. The sudden silence feels weighty, significant. This is it. Emma asks quietly. As close as we can determine, Richard confirms. Alina takes a deep breath, closing her eyes briefly. I don't remember the accident itself clearly, she says. Just fragments. The storm coming faster than expected, securing your life vest. The wave that separated us. She opens her eyes, gazing at the peaceful water that betrays no hint of its past violence. But standing here, I feel something. A completion of a circle. From a simple wooden box, each family member removes an item they've brought for this moment. Emma holds a small paper boat she's carefully constructed and waterproofed. This represents the boat that took Mommy away, she explains seriously, but also brought her back differently. Inside the paper vessel, she's written a message. Thank you for saving my mother and sending her back to me, even though it took a long time. Richard's contribution is a sealed bottle containing the death certificate that had officially, though incorrectly, documented Alina's passing, now voided and replaced by legal recognition of her survival. To let go of what we thought was the end of our story, he explains. Alina removes from the box a simple framed photograph, one showing her original face before the accident, smiling beside Richard and toddler Emma. Alongside it rests a more recent photo of the three of them, her appearance now markedly different, but their connection unmistakable. Both are true, she says simply. Both are me. Together they lower Emma's paper boat into the water. Richard places his bottle beside it, and finally Alina sets the frame containing both photographs gently on this floating altar to transformation. As the current gradually carries their offerings away, Alina speaks words she's carefully prepared. For this moment, Emchua Baugioroija, Chilan Kong Hanraim Vanongaija Yuthwong Hecha Consort Baunamqua. She translates for Emma's benefit. I never left. You just didn't realize I was right here, loving both of you all these years. Richard's eyes fill with tears as he recognizes the profound truth in her words. Though physically present in the world as Maya, something essential of Alina had indeed remained connected to them, drawing her back through coincidence too extraordinary to be merely chance. The ocean took something from us, Alina continues, but also preserved what mattered most. She turns to fully face her family. Not memories or appearance, but the capacity to love, to heal, to find each other again. Emma steps forward, taking her mother's hand. Without fear, she looks out at the water that once terrified her. The ocean isn't scary anymore, she decides. It's just part of our story. As they prepare to return to shore, Richard notices something remarkable in Alina's expression. A newfound peace that transcends the boundaries between her fragmented past and integrated present. You look complete, he observes quietly. Alina smiles, understanding exactly what he means. Not because I've remembered everything, she clarifies, but because I've stopped seeing Maya and Alina as separate people I have to choose between. They're both me, the woman who survived and the woman who found her way home. The boat turns toward shore, leaving behind the site that marked both an ending and a beginning. What they carry forward isn't perfect restoration of what was, lost, but something possibly more valuable. The recognition that love can transcend even the most profound forgetting, finding new pathways home when old ones are destroyed. The waiting room of what was formerly Dr. Maya Jenkins' practice has undergone subtle but significant changes. New signage reads, Dr. Alina Wilson, Ph.D., Child Psychology and Family Therapy, while inside, photographs of Alina with Emma and Richard have joined the professional credentials on the wall, a deliberate integration of her personal story with her professional identity. Today marks Alina's first day seeing patients since completing her extended leave of absence. The schedule has been intentionally light. Just 3 established clients, whose families have been carefully informed about their therapist's extraordinary circumstances. As Alina reviews files in her office, a gentle knock announces the arrival of 10-year-old Zach and his mother for the day's first appointment. The boy enters cautiously, clearly uncertain about the changes. Dr. Maya, he questions, noticing the differences in the office decor. Alina smiles warmly. Hello, Zach. Yes, it's still me, though I'm using a different name now. Dr. Wilson, Because you found out you already had a family? Zach asks with the directness typical of children. That's right, Alina confirms, appreciating his straightforwardness. Remember how we've talked about how sometimes big changes can be both scary and good at the same time? Zach nods, settling into his usual spot on the comfortable couch. Like when my dad moved out but then everyone stopped yelling all the time. Exactly like that, Alina agrees. My change is like that too, complicated, but ultimately positive. As the session progresses, Alina finds herself drawing on both her trained therapeutic skills and her deepened personal understanding of loss and recovery. When Zach expresses frustration about his parents' continuing custody disagreements, she responds with newfound insight. Sometimes grown-ups struggle to figure out new ways to be a family when old ways don't work anymore, she explains. It doesn't mean they've stopped loving you. It means they're learning a different way to show that love. After Zach leaves, his mother lingers briefly. I was worried when we heard about your situation, she admits. I wondered if you'd be the same therapist Zach has come to trust. But watching you today, you seem even more insightful, if anything. Thank you, Alina responds sincerely. In many ways, I am the same person who's been helping Zach, just with a fuller understanding of my own story now. Between appointments, Richard calls to check in. How's it going? He asks, concern evident in his voice. Surprisingly well, Alina assures him. It feels right, Richard, integrating these two parts of myself. Maya's training and experience weren't invalidated by discovering I'm Alina. Of course not, Richard agrees. They're gifts you gave yourself when you couldn't remember who you were, skills that make you even more completely yourself now. After her final appointment, Alina sits alone in her office, reflecting on the day. On her desk sits a new business card holder, a gift from Richard, containing cards that bridge her dual identity. Dr. Alina Wilson, formerly practicing as Dr. Maya Jenkins. She runs her fingers over the embossed lettering, appreciating the thoughtfulness behind this simple object. It acknowledges both the professional reputation she built as Maya and the reclaimed identity she now embraces as Alina. A text message from Richard interrupts her thoughts. Emma wants to know if Dr. Wilson can still make Maya's special hot chocolate when she gets home. Alina smiles at the message that so perfectly captures her integrated life. She types back, Dr. Wilson believes that's an excellent therapeutic recommendation. Tell the patient I'll be home soon. As she prepares to leave the office, Alina adjusts a new photograph on her desk, one showing her embracing Emma while Richard looks on with evident love. Beside it sits a small plaque recently gifted by a colleague, inscribed with words that have become something of a personal mantra. Healing happens not when we return to who we were, but when we fully become who we are. With professional confidence and personal contentment in comfortable balance, Alina locks her office door, ready to return home to the family she lost and miraculously found again, carrying forward the best of both worlds she has inhabited. The county courthouse stands imposing and formal. In a private meeting room, Alina sits beside Richard and their attorney, Mr. Brennan, surrounded by documents that will legally resurrect a woman declared dead. I've never handled a case like this, Mr. Brennan admits. Fortunately, the DNA evidence is irrefutable, and Judge Martinez has reviewed the medical documentation. Alina stares at documents spread across the table. Birth certificates, marriage license, death certificate, adoption papers, the paper trail of two separate lives that were one continuous existence. Once you sign these forms, Mr. Brennan explains, we'll file for legal recognition that Maya Jenkins and Alina Wilson are the same person. Your death certificate will be voided, and your identity as Alina Coleman Wilson reinstated. What about my credentials as Dr. Jenkins? Alina asks. My practice, my patients? We've addressed that, Richard assures her. A separate motion establishes that your professional qualifications remain valid. Mr. Brennan slides the final document forward. Whenever you're ready. Alina takes the pen, her hand trembling slightly. It's strange. I've been signing Maya Jenkins for 4 years. It feels like I'm saying goodbye to her. Richard watches with understanding. You're not losing Maya. She's part of who you are now, the strength you've built, the skills you've developed. You're not erasing her. You're integrating her into the fuller picture of yourself. With deliberate care, she signs, Alina Coleman Wilson. The signature begins with uncertainty, but flows more confidently. Not perfectly matching her pre-accident handwriting, yet carrying echoes of that former self. Outside the courthouse, standing in bright sunshine, Alina takes a deep breath. How does it feel? Richard asks. Overwhelming, she admits. Like I'm carrying two lives within me now, Maya's and Alina's, both equally real, yet somehow needing to become one cohesive story. Richard nods. Maybe that's the nature of healing after any profound loss. Not returning to exactly who we were before, but incorporating the change into who we're becoming. Maya saved me when Alina was lost, she reflects. She gave me purpose, identity, meaning. I don't want to simply discard her. You won't, Richard assures her. The best parts of both women will create something new, someone who knows both the depth of loss and the miracle of rediscovery. 3 months after Alina's public reintroduction, the garden behind the Wilson home has been transformed. Where formal landscaping once dominated, a vibrant blend of Vietnamese and American plants now thrives, an intentional fusion of Alina's dual heritage. On this perfect Saturday morning, Alina kneels in freshly tilled soil, showing Emma how to transplant delicate orchid seedlings sent by her grandmother in Vietnam. Gentle hands, Alina instructs. The roots are fragile, but with the right care, they'll grow strong. Emma mimics her mother's movements with careful precision. Like our family, she asks with innocent wisdom. Alina smiles, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. Exactly like our family. From the patio, Richard watches them together, a mother and daughter gardening on a weekend morning, an image he'd thought forever lost, yet now unfolds before his eyes as naturally as seasons changing. When Alina catches his gaze, her smile holds a comfort and ease that has gradually replaced earlier uncertainty. She beckons him to join them. Your expensive trousers won't survive, she teases as he hesitates. Worth the sacrifice, he decides, settling beside them in the dirt. As they work together, Alina occasionally pauses, tilting her head in a way Richard recognizes instantly. She's remembering something. The pond, she says suddenly. There used to be a small pond over there with koi fish. Emma would feed them every morning. Richard nods, surprised. Yes, exactly there. We filled it in after. He doesn't complete the sentence. Let's rebuild it, Alina suggests, eyes bright with purpose. Not exactly the same, but something that honors what was while creating something new. The metaphor isn't lost on any of them. Their life together follows precisely this pattern, preserving what remains of the past while consciously building a future that accommodates all they've become through both loss and discovery. Later, as they wash garden soil from their hands, Richard carefully broaches a subject they've been gradually approaching. Dr. Martinez thinks we're ready. If you are, Alina knows immediately what he means. Though living together as a family, they've maintained separate bedrooms, a respectful distance while their relationship reestablishes itself. I am, she confirms with quiet certainty. Not because I've remembered everything, I haven't, and might never, but because I know who we are now, and that's enough. Richard gently takes her soil-smudged hand in his. More than enough. As Emma calls them to see her completed planting, they move forward together, not desperately, trying to recreate what was lost, but building something new from the precious materials of both past and present. The small motorboat cuts through calm waters, carrying the Wilson family toward a specific coordinate point off the Vietnamese coast. This journey represents a culmination of their healing process, a return to the site of the accident that both ended one chapter and through extraordinary circumstance began another. Alina stands at the bow, wind tugging at her hair as she gazes across the tranquil sea. Unlike the stormy conditions that capsized her boat years ago, today the water is peaceful, sunlight dancing across gentle waves. Behind her, Richard maintains a steady hand on the outboard motor, while Emma sits wrapped in a life vest, solemn but unafraid. They've planned this ritual carefully with Dr. Martinez's guidance, not to re-traumatize, but to reclaim power over the event that shattered their family. For Emma, it's an opportunity to face lingering fears of water. For Richard, a chance to release the guilt he's carried for not being on the boat that day. For Alina, it's about honoring both who she was and who she became. When they reach the approximate location, Richard cuts the engine. The sudden silence feels weighty, significant. "This is it?" Emma asks quietly. "As close as we can determine," Richard confirms from a simple wooden box. Each family member removes an item they've brought. Emma holds a small paper boat she's carefully constructed. "This represents the boat that took Mommy away," she explains seriously, "but also brought her back differently. Inside she's written, 'Thank you for saving my mother and sending her back to me, even though it took a long time.'" Richard's contribution is a sealed bottle containing the voided death certificate, now replaced by legal recognition of Alina's survival. Alina removes a framed photograph showing her original face before the accident, smiling beside Richard and toddler Emma. Alongside rests a recent photo of the three of them, her appearance now markedly different but their connection unmistakable. "Both are true," she says simply. "Both are me." Together, they lower their offerings into the E. Water, Emma's paper boat, Richard's bottle, and Alina's framed photos. A floating altar to transformation. As the current carries their offerings away, Alina speaks words she's carefully prepared. "Mchua bao gyo roiji, chila an kong nhandra vanongai jai, yu thuong hai chakonsut bao nam kwa." She translates for Emma. "I never left. You just didn't realize I was right here, loving both of you all these years." Richard's eyes fill with tears, recognizing the profound truth. Though physically present as Maya, something essential of Alina had remained connected to them, drawing her back through coincidence too extraordinary to be merely chance. "The ocean took something from us," Alina continues, "but also preserved what mattered most, not memories or appearance, but the capacity to love, to find each other again." Emma takes her mother's hand, looking without fear at the water that once terrified her. "The ocean isn't scary anymore, it's just part of our story." The waiting room of what was formerly Dr. Maya Jenkins' practice has undergone subtle but significant changes. New signage reads, "Dr. Alina Wilson, Ph.D., Child Psychology and Family Therapy," while inside, photographs of Alina with Emma and Richard have joined the professional credentials on the wall, a deliberate integration of her personal story with her professional identity. Today marks Alina's first day seeing patients since her extended leave. The schedule is intentionally light, just 3 established clients whose families have been carefully informed about their therapist's extraordinary circumstances. 10-year-old Zach and his mother arrive for the day's first appointment. The boy enters cautiously, clearly uncertain about the changes. "Dr. Maya?" he questions, noticing differences in the office decor. Alina smiles warmly. "Hello, Zach." "Yes, it's still me, though I'm using a different name now, Dr. Wilson." "Because you found out you already had a family?" Zach asks with the directness typical of children. "That's right," Alina confirms. "Remember how we've talked about how sometimes big changes can be both scary and good at the same time?" Zach nods, settling into his usual spot. "Like when my dad moved out, but then everyone stopped yelling all the time." "Exactly like that." Alina agrees. "My change is like that too. Complicated but ultimately positive." As the session progresses, Alina draws on both her trained therapeutic skills and her deepened personal understanding of loss and recovery. When Zach expresses frustration about his parents' continuing custody disagreements, she responds with newfound insight. Sometimes grown-ups struggle to figure out new ways to be a family when old ways don't work anymore, she explains. It doesn't mean they've stopped loving you. It means they're learning a different way to show that love. After Zach leaves, his mother lingers briefly. "I was worried when we heard about your situation," she admits. "I wondered if you'd be the same therapist Zach has come to trust. But watching you today, you seem even more insightful." Between appointments, Richard calls to check in. "How's it going?" he asks. "Surprisingly well," Alina assures him. "It feels right, Richard. Integrating these two parts of myself, Maya's training and experience weren't invalidated by discovering I'm Alina. Of course not, Richard agrees. They're gifts you gave yourself when you couldn't remember who you were, skills that make you even more completely yourself now. After her final appointment, Alina sits alone in her office. On her desk sits a new business card holder, a gift from Richard, containing cards that bridge her dual identity. Dr. Alina Wilson, formerly practicing as Dr. Maya Jenkins. A text message from Richard interrupts her thoughts. Emma wants to know if Dr. Wilson can still make Maya's special hot chocolate when she gets home. Alina smiles at the message that so perfectly captures her integrated life. She types back, Dr. Wilson believes that's an excellent therapeutic recommendation. Tell the patient I'll be home soon. 6 months after Maya Jenkins discovered she was Alina Wilson, the Wilson family hosts an intimate gathering in their garden. Unlike the formal reintroduction months earlier, this celebration is small and deeply personal. Only their closest, friends and family present to witness a ceremony of renewal. The garden has been transformed, lanterns hanging from branches, flowers from both Vietnam and America, intertwined in arrangements that symbolize the blending of cultural identities. At the center stands a simple arch draped with jasmine vines, their fragrance perfuming the evening air. Emma, radiant in a lavender dress, takes her role as both flower girl and central witness with solemn importance. She carries a basket, containing not flower petals, but small paper stars, each inscribed with words that have guided their journey. Hope, patience, memory, discovery, integration, family. Richard waits beneath the arch, emotion evident as he watches Alina approach. There is no processional music, no elaborate ceremony, just the simple beauty of a man and woman who have found each other against impossible odds, choosing once, again to build a life together. Richard takes both her hands in his. The last time we stood together like this, we promised to love each other until death parted us. In some ways, that promise was fulfilled. A kind of death did separate us, even if not in the way we imagined possible. Alina nods, understanding perfectly. The woman she was did effectively die in that accident. Her memories, her face, her sense of self transformed beyond recognition. Today, Richard continues, I make a new promise, to love you not just until death, but beyond it. To recognize you regardless of how you might change. To find you no matter how you might become lost. Alina responds from the heart. I stand before you as someone both known and unknown to herself. Parts of our shared past remain in shadow, while others shine with perfect clarity. But I've learned that love doesn't reside in memory alone. She glances at Emma, drawing strength from her daughter's smile. Love lives in recognition deeper than conscious thought, in the way my hands remember how to braid Emma's hair, in how my body knows exactly how to fit against yours even when my mind forgot your name. From her pocket, Alina withdraws the delicate handkerchief with her name embroidered in blue thread. This traveled from you to me, from me to Emma, and back to me again, she says. Like our love, passed between us, preserved when direct. Connection was broken, finding its way home despite everything. Together they tie the handkerchief around their joined hands, a symbolic binding more meaningful than any conventional ritual. Emma steps forward, scattering her paper stars around them as she declares, Now we're officially a family again. Later, as guests depart and Emma sleeps peacefully, Richard and Alina stand together on the balcony, where he first proposed years ago. Happy? He asks simply. Alina considers thoughtfully. That word seems too small. I feel whole, not because all the pieces have been found, but because I've stopped waiting for completion to begin living fully. To the journey then, Richard suggests, raising his glass slightly. Past, present and future, all part of one continuous story. To the journey, Alina agrees, her eyes reflecting both the woman she was and the woman she has become. Different, yet fundamentally the same, like a melody played in a new key but instantly recognizable to those who truly know how to listen. Morning sunlight streams through windows once shuttered against grief, now thrown open to welcome new life. The Wilson home, once a monument to loss, now buzzes with purposeful activity and genuine laughter. Emma darts through the hallway, arms filled with colorful paper flowers she's crafted at school. "These go in Mommy's room," she announces, her voice carrying the easy joy of a child who has found what was lost. Alina follows with a small suitcase, the last of her belongings from her apartment. The transition has been gradual, respectful, of the complex emotions involved for all three of them. Today marks the final step, officially moving in, two families becoming one again. "Where do you want these?" Richard asks, carrying a box of books, psychology texts from Maya's professional life now joining the family library. "Next to yours," Alina answers with quiet certainty. The decision to share a bedroom again hadn't been rushed, but had come. Naturally, as their reconnection deepened, Emma leads them to a room transformed by a child's loving hands. A hand-painted banner spans the wall. "Welcome home, Mommy." Crayon drawings depict their family, three figures now standing together instead of the two that had decorated the refrigerator for years. "I cleaned my special box for you," Emma says proudly, showing Alina a wooden chest where she's carefully arranged treasures, a seashell from their last beach trip before the accident, the ribbon from Emma's first dance recital, a pressed flower from the garden. "So you'll remember everything important," Emma explains solemnly. Alina kneels before her daughter, touched beyond words by this gesture of acceptance. Emma understanding that her mother's memories remain incomplete, yet offering her own as a bridge. "This is perfect," she whispers, pulling Emma close. From the doorway, Richard watches them, his daughter and the woman who is both familiar and new, both lost and found. For the first time in 4 years, he feels the weight of absence lift completely from his shoulders. Later, as evening settles around them, the three gather in the living room that once echoed with emptiness. Now it resonates with the simple sounds of family. Emma's humming as she draws, the gentle rustle of pages as Richard reads, Alina's contented sigh as she arranges framed photographs on the mantel, Richard, Emma and herself, past and present, merged into one continuous story. Home, not a place but the people who make it complete. Golden afternoon light bathes the small memorial garden Richard created at the edge of the lake, a private sanctuary where he and Emma would come to remember Alina. The centerpiece is a simple stone marker inscribed with words once believed. Final. Alina Coleman, forever loved. Now the three of them stand together before this monument to grief that has unexpectedly become a bridge to healing. Richard carries white lilies, Alina's favorite. Emma clutches a handful of origami boats she's made for the occasion. Alina holds nothing, bringing only herself, the living embodiment of what this place commemorates. I used to talk to you here, Emma explains, taking Alina's hand. I'd tell you about school and my friends and how much I missed you. And somehow I think I heard you, Alina responds softly. Not in my conscious mind, but in my heart, the part of me that remembered before my brain could. They move, together to the water's edge. Emma kneels first, setting her paper boats gently on the surface. These are for all the birthdays and Christmases we missed, she explains. They're sailing away because we don't need them anymore. We have real ones to make now. Richard steps forward next, releasing lily blossoms onto the water. These represent the grief I'm letting go, he says quietly. Not the love, never the love, but the weight of loss that I carried for so long. Finally, Alina approaches the stone marker that bears her name. She places her palm against the cool surface, feeling the strange dissonance of touching her own memorial. This moment represents the final reconciliation between Maya Jenkins and Alina Wilson, the ultimate acknowledgement that both are essential parts of one continuous self. Em chua bao gyo roi ji, she whispers, the Vietnamese flowing naturally from somewhere beyond conscious memory. Chilan kong hanraim vanongai jai, yu thuong hecha consort bao nam kwa. Richard understands without translation. I never left. You just didn't realize I was right here, loving both of you all these years. He takes her hand, tears glistening in his eyes, but his voice steady with profound certainty. Family is not just an important thing. It's everything. As the setting sun casts long shadows across the memorial garden, they turn away together, not abandoning the past, but integrating it into their present. The stone marker remains, no longer a symbol of ending, but a milestone on their extraordinary journey. Some wounds never disappear completely, but in their healing they create something stronger and more beautiful than what existed before. Months pass, seasons change, and life settles into new rhythms for the Wilson family. What once seemed miraculous gradually becomes their cherished normal, though they never take it for granted. In her therapy practice, Alina, now practicing under her reclaimed name, has become known for her extraordinary insight into trauma and recovery. Her waiting room displays both her professional credentials and her personal story, making her office a place of authentic hope for clients facing their own impossible journeys. Dr. Wilson helped me understand that healing doesn't mean forgetting, explains a teenage client to her mother after a session. It means building something new that honors everything you've experienced, the hard parts and the beautiful parts. Richard, too, has found new purpose beyond his business success. At medical conferences and trauma recovery symposiums, he shares their story, becoming an advocate for advances in facial reconstruction and memory research. His company now funds a foundation dedicated to reuniting families separated by disaster and amnesia. The odds against finding each other were astronomical, he acknowledges to an audience of medical professionals. But even one miracle means others are possible. That's why this work matters, because somewhere another family might be waiting for the connection we found. Their public story inspires many, but it's their private life, ordinary moments of family connection, that sustains them. Emma's homework spreads across the kitchen table, while Alina prepares dinner. Richard returns from work to find them laughing over something simple. These unremarkable scenes of domestic harmony are the true measure of their recovery. Sometimes, I still feel like two people, Alina confesses one evening after Emma has gone to bed. Maya's training helps me understand what Alina's heart feels. Is that strange? Richard considers thoughtfully. Maybe it's not about being one person, or two, he suggests. Maybe it's about being whole, all the fragments coming together to create something stronger than before. This perspective, integration rather than erasure, guides their journey forward. Not perfect restoration of what was lost, but the creation of something new that honors every chapter of their extraordinary story. 1 year to the day after Maya Jenkins discovered she was Alina Wilson, the family hosts a small gathering in their backyard garden. Unlike formal celebrations or public commemorations, this is intimate. Only those who have walked alongside them through their journey of rediscovery. Fairy lights twinkle in the trees. A table laden with food reflects Alina's blended heritage. Vietnamese spring rolls beside American apple pie. Emma flits between guests in a white dress adorned with handmade paper flowers, her happiness radiating from every movement. Richard and Alina stand together beneath an arch of jasmine vines, their fragrance perfuming the evening air. No officiants or formal ceremony, just two people who have found each other across an impossible divide, renewing their commitment with full awareness of its preciousness. A year ago, Richard begins, taking Alina's hands in his. We stood in a doctor's office looking at medical evidence of a miracle. Science could explain the how, but not the why. Why of all the therapists in the city, Emma found you. Why you felt drawn to our family before knowing who you were. Alina's eyes shine with emotion. Some connections exist beyond memory, she replies. I didn't need to remember your name to recognize your soul. I didn't need to recall giving birth to know Emma was my daughter. The heart remembers what the mind forgets. Emma steps forward, carrying something carefully wrapped in tissue paper. I want to give this back, she says, her young voice solemn with the gravity of the moment. As Alina unwraps the package, she reveals the handkerchief with Alina embroidered in blue thread, now professionally framed in a shadow box alongside a family photograph taken after their reunion. It doesn't need to protect me anymore, Emma explains, because you're here for real. Richard places his hand over Alina's as she accepts this symbolic offering. This handkerchief traveled from me to you, From you to Emma, and now to us all together, he observes, like our love, circling back even when the path seemed broken. As twilight deepens around their gathering, guests gradually depart until only the three remain in their illuminated garden. They sit together on the porch swing, Emma nestled between her parents, their figures silhouetted against the warm light spilling from the house behind them. "Are we a happy ending now?" Emma asks sleepily. Alina smiles, brushing her daughters, hair back with a gesture that has remained unchanged across amnesia and facial reconstruction. Some things too essential to be forgotten. "Not an ending," she corrects gently. "A continuation." Inside the house, visible through the window, sits the framed handkerchief upon the mantel, a symbol not of what was lost, but of what endures. Beside it stands the family photograph. Three people whose journey reminds us that love, in its deepest essence, transcends memory, appearance, and even time itself. In the quiet evening, as stars emerge above their reunited family, the ancient truth resounds without needing to be spoken. Family is not just an important thing, it's everything. Some families are torn apart by fate, and some are brought back together by the quiet miracle called love. If this story moved you, hit like, share it with someone you miss, and subscribe so we can keep preserving the moments that should never be forgotten.